What's up, Tailgaters? My name is Tailgate Nate. Welcome back to my channel. We're continuing with schedule preview and predictions for the 2021 college football season. And today we're going to be talking about the Virginia Tech Hokies. And this is a team that you really could go either way with, as, hey, we're getting the more interesting teams, the more middle-of-the-road teams that could end up being surprise teams this year, or disappointing teams, however way you want to put it. Virginia Tech could end up being a surprise or disappointment. How do I think they fare in 2021? Hey, Guys, we just hit 250 subscribers. I never thought that would happen. This was just a fun thing that I was like, hey, let's go talk about college football. I didn't think it would blow up as quickly as it has, so thank you guys so much for that. Continue to hit that subscribe button. Continue pushing that number up. Leave a like on this video. Get it out to as many Hokie fans as possible. And if you are a Hokie fan, you want to be sure you stick around on the channel. So ring the bell, hit the subscribe button. You can also leave a comment down below telling me your thoughts on Virginia Tech. Just be mindful of what you say in the comment section below. So without further ado, let's talk about Virginia Tech in 2021 and a team this year that a lot of people seem to think is on a sinking ship. A team last year that missed out on a bowl game, albeit bowl games were kind of weird with their requirements, and then there were teams opting out of bowl games, what have you. But Virginia Tech, of course, not playing in a bowl game last year. They were, the perfect middle of the road in the ACC. I believe they were 8th or 9th. We'll look on the next slide and I'll remind myself where they were in the standings. But I think the main reason why people think Virginia Tech is on a sinking ship, quote unquote, is the talent. When you look here, again, I'm not saying all people think that. I'm just saying from some sources that I've read, Virginia Tech is on a downhill trend. Do I think so? You're going to find out in a little bit. I'll talk about my thoughts about that at the end. A lot of people think this Virginia Tech team is going to be really solid, but when you look at the talent that's leaving, I could see why some people might think that Virginia Tech's not going to do so well this year. Hendon Hooker is leaving for Tennessee, a transfer going over to Tennessee to replace Jarrett Guarantano, who transferred to Washington State. You got running back Khalil Herbert gone to the NFL, and Evan Fair's gone as well. Christian Darrisaw gone to the NFL as well. So some nice talent on the offensive side that if it came back, it was going to be huge. Hendon Hooker seemed like he was on his way out as the starter anyway, but Khalil Herbert, you knew was going to go to the NFL, as was Christian Darrisaw. Then on the defensive end, Jared Hewitt, Zion DeBose, Justice Reed on the defensive line. All those are gone. Justice Reed was a huge player on the defensive line. Rayshard Ashby, the leading linebacker, gone as well. Caleb Farley and Divine Diablo, arguably two of the, and well, in my opinion, is their two biggest losses on defense, gone out of the defensive back group. So you expect the secondary to take a step back this year, for Virginia Tech. But we'll have to wait and see on that, right? Farley and Diablo were two absolutely fantastic players. But hey, it's not about what you lost. It's about what you have. And for people that are excited about this Virginia Tech team, they have reason to be. There's a new starting quarterback, and his name is Braxton Burmeister. It was kind of trending last year like Burmeister was going to end up being the starter in 21 if Hendon Hooker stuck around anyway. Burmeister got some starts late in the season, and Hendon Hooker kind of fell off. So Burmeister coming in at quarterback now. In my opinion, the jury is still out on whether or not Hendon Hooker or Braxton Burmeister is the better quarterback. I'll let you guys decide that. I'm going to get too big into an argument about it. So I think both are really solid options at the quarterback position. And for Braxton Burmeister and Hendon Hooker, hey, they play a little bit of a different style. So we'll have to see how Burmeister fits in as the full-time starter there at Virginia Tech. For running back, I'm going to go with Raheem Blackshear to get a mention here. Raheem Blackshear is a phenomenal running back. I believe was a former transfer over from Rutgers. He's kind of a Khalil Herbert style player-ish. I mean, you can see some similarities, but in many ways they are very different. So can Raheem Blackshear replace Khalil Herbert? I think that's a big question coming into the season. I don't know about full-on replace because Khalil Herbert was pretty darn good. But for Raheem Blackshear, there's some high expectations for him, and I think he has a very high ceiling. So we'll have to see how he plays. Some still very solid options at the wide receiver position. Trey Turner, Tavion Robinson coming back as well. Doug Nestor back on the offensive line. And then on the defensive side, you have Amare Barno, Dax Holyfield, Tay Daly, and Chamari Connor. So some defensive names coming back for Virginia Tech. This could end up being a pretty solid team in 2021. So how does their schedule fare? Well, it's a pretty difficult schedule, I would say, for the talent of this Virginia Tech for this Virginia Tech team has. Excuse me. This is a pretty interesting schedule in my mind. They got a lot of pretty interesting games here on the schedule. We'll have to see how they do. You're going to figure out what I think they're going to do. Hey, 5-6 last year while playing a 10-game ACC schedule. Of course, 5-5 in the ACC. They were end up 8 in the ACC, so exactly middle of the road, as there were no divisions in that conference last year. Of course, didn't play in a bowl game, as I mentioned earlier. Hey, you guys know how this works. I'm talking about some games more than others. They're just more interesting matchups to me. So if the date gets highlighted in green, it's a win, and if it gets highlighted in red, it's a predicted loss. Without further ado, talking about Virginia Tech in 2021, what better place to start in the first game of the season? And they get a home game Friday. I'm assuming it's going to be Friday night under the lights in Blacksburg against the North Carolina Tar Heels. We all know how good North Carolina is going to be. And this is something that I've mentioned a lot. But you're going to see a lot of highly ranked teams lose on the road on weekdays. That's just what past history will tell us. But this is the first game of the season, so they get all the practice in the world to prepare for Blacksburg. But speaking of Blacksburg, already a hard place to play. I've mentioned this about once or twice, and I believe it's been more recent than ever, but home field is going to play the biggest advantage, in my opinion, that it ever has. I mean, fans were not in stadiums last year, so this year the stadiums are going to be rocking. Tailgates are going to be bigger than ever. The college game day sites that ESPN picks are going to be loud as ever. And very much, home stadiums are just going to be rocking everywhere around the country. Fans are going to be excited to get back in stadiums and watching some good old football again. With that being said, though, I do have North Carolina winning this game. Now, I do think Virginia Tech is going to keep it closer than a lot of people might think because it is in Blacksburg, first game of the season, first game with fans back, with a full stadium of fans back in Blacksburg in almost 2 years. So this is going to be a very interesting game here. North Carolina, of course, is the more talented team, and we know that with Sam Howell now getting Ty Chandler as well from Tennessee. Still some solid players there at wide receiver. Defensive players solid as well. North Carolina is going to be a really good team coming this year. I do have this as a win for the North Carolina Tar Heels, means the loss for the Hokies. Home game against Middle Tennessee. So the Blue Raiders have a very interesting defensive back. I think is one of the best defensive backs in the entire nation. His name is Reed Blankenship. Very, very good player. He's going to cause some problems for the pass game among anyone that Middle Tennessee faces this year. But Middle Tennessee as a team is not great. So I have Virginia Tech being able to pretty easily win this one. And then a road game against West Virginia. This is another interesting one because I think it depends on how Virginia Tech is playing at the start of the year. And if Virginia Tech can somehow upset North Carolina at the start of the year, they're going to have a lot of momentum coming into this West Virginia game. And it's a West Virginia team that I have said is an underrated team. I think they're going to surprise some people. And then even since then, while looking more into West Virginia as I'm doing their preview prediction on Friday, this is a better team than I thought they were. And I already knew this was a good team, but consistency is key for West Virginia in 2021. Jarrett Doge coming back at quarterback, a really solid group of running backs, along with a really solid group of wide receivers. There's one name at running back that stands out, just is escaping my mind right now. So for that, I apologize. And then a defense that statistically last year was one of, if not the best in the Big 12, possibly the entire nation. And if West Virginia can continue that, again, consistency is key. They're going to come away with some really big wins. And while this might not be a huge win, I think West Virginia is going to be favored. I do have this as being a solid win for West Virginia, which means it is a loss for Virginia Tech. I just think that this is a mismatch. Either way you put it, I think West Virginia's offense is slightly better than that of Virginia Tech's, and I think on the defensive side of the ball, West Virginia is clearly better. A home game against Richmond is up next, and while Richmond might be a solid playoff team annually, I should say, in the FCS, I don't see Richmond doing much here. And then the bye week. So you're 2-2 to start off the season. That is the most likely outcome, I will say. Most likely outcome there. This is going to be an interesting little eight-game stretch here then for Virginia Tech because there are some tricky ones. But I will say that this next game they have here against Notre Dame is the classic trap game scenario. If you haven't watched my Notre Dame video or you're unfamiliar with Notre Dame's schedule, they have what I'm calling a 5-game stretch of death. It's Wisconsin, Cincinnati, Virginia Tech on the road, USC, and North Carolina all in 5 straight weeks. I think they have a bye week somewhere in there, but pretty much 5 straight games, and that is horrible. So this is a classic trap game scenario for Notre Dame, but I do feel like the Fighting Irish are going to get it done. They're going to be breaking in a new quarterback in Jack Cohn. I put new in quotes because Jack Cohn was a former quarterback at Wisconsin, got hurt last year. We'll have to see how he looks this year. And hey, at running back, they possibly have one of the best backs in the entire nation in Kyren Williams. And I'm really high on Kyren Williams, so you can expect to see him in my top 10 for sure. But where does he land? You'll find out on Saturday. So for Notre Dame, I think it's going to be another solid year for Notre Dame. Don't know if they're going to quite get back to the playoff, but this one, I think Notre Dame narrowly escapes Blacksburg with a win. Then a home game against Pitt. And I think Virginia Tech wins this one, and I think they rebound. I think that Virginia Tech is just going to end up playing better at home than they do on the road this year. And a team like Pitt, normally I would say Pitt wins this game. If it was on the road, I'd say Pitt wins the game. We all know how solid Kenny Pickett is. Pitt usually has some pretty good defensive scheme as well. And for Pitt, I mean, just this is the team that I also feel like can be a really, really solid team. But the more I look into Pitt, the kind of lesser I feel about them, and the more I look into Virginia Tech, I just feel a little bit better about Virginia Tech than Pitt. Of course, there are different ways that you can slice that cake, but I'm giving the win here to the Virginia Tech Hokies. A home game against Syracuse. They also have Duke on the schedule. Syracuse and Duke might be 2 of the worst teams in the ACC, and what in my opinion are the 2 worst teams in the ACC. So I'll give them a win here against Syracuse. You can expect a win against Duke as well, but of course we'll talk about that game when we get to it. Road game against Georgia Tech. So the Yellow Jackets are a team that has the most difficult schedule in all of football. I mean, this when you look, the FPI has it as number 1. I'm pretty sure every list I've seen has it at number 1. Now, I'm not going to do hardest and easiest schedules of the upcoming season this year, just because I didn't plan for it, don't have time for it, whatever you want to say. But Georgia Tech could be a solid team coming into this year. Now, with this difficult schedule, I think it's going to be really hard for them to appear solid. Georgia Tech's going to be one of those teams that's going to be obviously better than what their record indicates. But I'm giving this one a win to Virginia Tech. So now Virginia Tech only needs one more game to become bowl eligible. And can they get that here in the next game against Boston College? This is a road game, and it's on a Friday night. And while I don't think Virginia Tech's going to be a ranked team, just these weekday games with the short week of practice, plus you have a day for travel and settling down and stuff like that. Teams that fare on the road and weekdays are, they're going to be hard games to win. And especially against a team like Boston College that I think is going to be a solid team this year. And I think it surprised a lot of people. Hey, Phil Jurkovec, one of the most underrated quarterbacks in the entire nation, usually got a good running back there for Boston College. The defense, I think, is only improving. Boston College has got a lot of nice things going for them. And I think Virginia Tech slips up here. I think Virginia Tech takes the loss to Boston College. I already kind of mentioned the Duke game. Sorry, I just hit my desk. A team that might be one of the worst in the ACC and probably right down there with Syracuse. This should be a win for Virginia Tech. A road game against the Miami Hurricanes. And this is an interesting one here. So again, it's in Blacksburg, or excuse me, it's not in Blacksburg. What am I talking about? Well, now that I've reminded myself that the game is not in Blacksburg, we can clip out that little blip there. Yeah, this is going to be a loss for Virginia Tech. Miami, I think, is going to be really good this year. They got one of the highest numbers in returning production, returning De'Aaron King, who I believe I had as number 4 or 5 on my quarterback list. Some really, really solid players around him. The only offensive player that's pretty much leaving is Cameron Harris. Or not Cameron Harris. He's coming back. It's Brevin Jordan at tight end. Pretty much the only offensive player gone. And then when you look at the defense, yeah, you got to replace Greg Rousseau, some other guys on the defensive line. But overall, this is a really solid. Now I know Greg Rousseau didn't play last year, but still got to find a spot for him, as he could have played this year easily. Miami's going to be a really good team coming into next year. I don't think Virginia Tech gets away with this one. And then a road game against Virginia. So the rivalry game. Virginia, I think, has won once in the past. What was it, like 25 years, something like that? The number is probably higher than that. And I think that Virginia Tech does end up getting this win. I'm not super high on Virginia this year. I know a lot of people might say, "Oh, wait, but Virginia, they're really going to surprise people this year." I've looked into Virginia a little bit. I'm not that confident in what the Cavaliers are going to be doing this year. So with that being said, hey, 7 games highlighted in green, which means 5 games are highlighted in red. So I have the Virginia Tech Hokies going 7-5 in 2021. That record range go 2 games in either direction. And I think a huge swing game is the game against Boston College. That's a huge swing game. Another huge swing game is the game against Pitt, the trap game against Notre Dame. So, hey, you can really go any way you want with this Virginia Tech schedule. Best case scenario, the ceiling I have for them is 9-3. I think it's going to be hard for them to do any better with this brutal schedule. And then worst case scenario I see is 5-7 because brutal schedule. Pitt is a team that can absolutely beat them. Georgia Tech could surprise some people, and then they could absolutely lose to their rivals in Virginia. With that being said, hey, that's going to do it for my Virginia Tech preview prediction for the 2021 season. Again, be sure to leave a like, comment, subscribe. You can just, of course, share the video as well. Do anything you can to help promote the channel. Tomorrow, I believe we are going to be looking at the Arkansas Razorbacks, an underrated SEC team coming into next year. Where do I have the Razorbacks in 2021? You're going to find out tomorrow. Remember to play hard, but tailgate harder. I will see all of you guys tomorrow when we talk about Arkansas. Goodbye.